What is going on, everybody? I'm back with another one of Cody's Campfire stories. So this story is actually going to be a compilation of two different experiences that I had. It's all going to be one. It's going to be one story, of course, but this happened to me two separate times that I was there. And weirdly enough, is I have friends that also have similar experiences at this same building. So the building that I'm going to be talking about today was actually this old state mental asylum, and it was a very prominent mental asylum both in my state but in the Southeast in general. And at one point in time, it was the biggest and oldest operational mental asylum. So before we get into it, if you like it, if you want more, if you have any suggestions for anything, you can leave your suggestions down in the comments. You know, if you're like, oh, you look stupid with a hat, you need to shave, get a haircut, leave that down in the comments as well. The reason I'm wearing the shirt, I just got off work. If you like the shirt, leave it in the comments. Anyway, guys, we're going to get into it. So this story starts the summer of 2019. Me and my buddy Evan were talking at work one night, and he was telling me about how, oh, they always go exploring these abandoned buildings and all these old abandoned sites. Now, simply because I don't want to say something and incriminate anybody, I'm not going to give any specific names of where we went or when we did it. Even though I just said this was the summer of 2019. That doesn't really, that's not that big of a deal, okay? We're just gonna ignore that. Anyway, so me and Evan were talking, and we were talking about adventuring and exploring, and I just straight up said, I was like, bro, that sounds cool as hell. We should go one day. You have all these places I've never been. We don't really get to hang out that much, so this would be a good time for us to have a little bromance together. So about a week later, Evan was like, hey man, what are you doing today? It's like, my friend Zach, he always likes to go exploring, and we're going to go to this asylum. Now, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. I've never hung out with Zach before. And so we all decided that, okay, we'll go. Now, there's a weird start to the day because Zach was supposed to be taking one of his finals for college that day. But whenever he went, they sent him to the wrong building. And that ended up being why we went when we did. Because he went there and his class wasn't actually in the room that it was supposed to be. Now, I know this is kind of a little side note to it, but I like to think that had we not have went at the time that we did, this experience might not have happened. I don't know. I can't say that for a fact, but I just figured it's a little interesting nugget of information. So we ended up going about 2 hours earlier than we had planned. So we're sitting there, we get there, and we pull up to the asylum. And it's not just this one big building. There's a big green field in the middle. And then around the field, you have a couple buildings all around the field. And a couple of them are still in use and is actually used by a college in the local area. Now, another interesting piece about it is it was sectioned off based on what it was, which I know that kind of makes sense, but like there would be a men's ward, and then a woman's ward, and then there's like an administrative building, but it wasn't all one big campus. So we were getting there, we parked, and we make our way into one of the buildings. Now we're there, and it's kind of creepy because every floor you go, every hallway, it's just a long, dark hallway. And if you look at the other end of the hallway, it always looks like there's something staring at you. Now that just has to do with the fact that it's a long, dark hallway, and the light is always going to get more narrow the further at the other end that it gets. But it was always something, you know, you'd walk past the hallway, you'd look, and it would just look like something's looking at you. It it was kind of creepy, but not really. It was the middle of the day, so, it wasn't that bad. So we were sitting there walking through, and we got to this one room, and the door was falling over, and you could see inside, and it was just files, just stacks of files from the floor to the ceiling, and these were patient records. Now that is why there's this abandoned building, and it still has all the records from the patients in it, beyond me. But we're like, okay, that's kind of creepy. And you could see some of the reasons why some of the people were in there. Like, for example, there was one person who was in there because he had epilepsy, and ultimately he ended up dying in there, which is kind of, that's kind of messed up, in all honesty. So we were going, exploring, and we ended up getting on the roof. Look around, great view. We're like, okay, that's cool. And then we decided we're gonna go to another building. So then we get into this building, and we go downstairs, and there's like this little underground tunnel that goes into the building beside it. So then we did that. We take a couple turns, and then we look and realize, oh, we can't find the way that we just came from, which was weird because we made literally 2 small turns and then we couldn't figure out how to get out. But there was this little like dugout that you could climb out from below the surface back onto the ground through this little hole in the building. So I climbed out, and now I'm back on the ground. I'm walking around, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is weird. My friends are below me in the ground. I'm standing up here, and I'm walking, trying to figure out, okay, how can we get back to this building? And then I'm standing there outside the building. So the building, it kind of makes a U, and I'm standing in the middle of the U. And I can tell my friends aren't talking because I could hear them. I was just talking to them. And our conversation had, it had ended for the time period. And inside the building beside me, I hear these voices. I hear 2 distinct, what I was assuming were male voices, and they were talking and they were having a conversation. And I was listening to it. I couldn't make out anything they were saying. I could just hear that they were talking. And I asked my friends, I said, hey, are y'all talking? I said, no, nobody's talking. I said, do you hear anybody talking? They said, no, we do not. I was like, okay, that was weird. And then I climbed back down in the hole. I was like, hey, I don't know, but we can't do this because there was this board that had a bunch of nails in it. And, we didn't quite feel like taking the chance trying to climb over the board with the nails with everybody in our group. And I was there, like, hey, look, we might run into some people on the way out. I'm not sure. And we went back through the building, and for some reason we decided to look, see if there were people. But like, we would periodically stop, see if we could hear anybody walking, talking, anything like that. And we didn't hear anything. Just nothing. We didn't hear anybody. And weirdly enough, my buddy Evan at the time said, that's really weird because in the other building, the first time I was here, whenever we climbed up onto the roof, I heard people talking and I heard a door close downstairs or on the floor below us. I was like, interesting. And then nothing else really happened that night. But then fast forward about, I don't know, it was about a year later, actually. And then we went again. And we were there. And we went back onto the roof of the building that Evan said he heard people walking and talking on the floor below us whenever we went onto the roof. Now, what's crazy about this is I actually have this on video. So we were up on the roof, just hanging out, enjoying the view. And I took a video, just looking at the view. And at the very end of it, you hear this girl say, hey. Now, what's crazy about that is there's no girls were with us. There were no girls walking around because you could see in the video, nobody was around us. There were no vehicles. You didn't hear anything. But on the video, you have this girl very clearly saying, hey. And I'm going to put it in at the end just so you guys, you can see that I'm not making this up. What's weird is both times that I've been there, I've had some experience. And then I was talking to one of my friends just the other day, and he was telling me about whenever they went there, whenever he went there with a couple of his friends. And they were in one of the buildings, and they didn't want to go back into the building. Or he didn't want to go back into the building, but they were going into another one. So he decided that he was going to just stay, just hang out, you know, I'll stay here, you guys go on ahead. And he was hanging out, and he said he felt something, you know, just tap, tap, tap on his shoulder. He was like, okay, that's weird. Just kind of ignored it. But then more aggressively, he felt tap, tap, tap. He was like, okay, I want to leave. I'm getting out. I don't like this. So he left. And then he waited for his friends to get out. And then they left. And he went home. And then he started doing a little bit of research into it. And then he found out that he had a great aunt that worked there that ended up passing away there, and a great uncle that was actually a patient there and ended up passing away in the care of the building. Now that's kind of crazy. The fact that I personally have two experiences, one that I'm going to put at the end, like I said, and two of my pretty good friends have experiences there as well. I don't know what it is. It might be something to it, but there is a lot of, you know, there's a really dark history to that place. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, those experiences were real and were legit. Anyway, guys, if you like this, I'd appreciate it if you leave a like, potentially subscribe. And if there's anything that you want to see me do, any stories you might want me to cover, you know, leave it in the comments. If you want me to do something completely new in general, whether it's like a skit or another like series idea, you know, leave it in the comments. The more interaction that we have, the more this gets it out there, and I would really appreciate it, guys. So anyway, that was another one of Cody's Campfire stories. Have a great day. Here's the clip for you. Yeah, there's people walking over there, like by the church.
Oh, let me throw a ceiling tile.
So just to clarify what it is that you're about to watch, this is the clip that I took on Snapchat from the rooftop where I heard it. At the very end, you're going to hear it faintly, hey, but then the second time it's going to replay again, but it's going to be slowed down, and the video is going to be boosted a little bit. It's going to be on TikTok because really that's the only way I knew how to do it. But the second one, you can really hear it. Anyway, just tell me what you think about it. And like I said, peace out.